And the second question is, well, first of all, I understood that you said that PTT was bad. It's just that you're using the Grok's argument to apply to all platforms, whereas they specifically said it's for promoting piracy. That's just a clarification. And the second question is that the RIAA has recently been sued under federal organized crime legislation for extortion and scare tactics. Since your presentation has little to nothing to do with computer security or safety, it focuses heavily on the legal aspects of computer use. How can your presentation be interpreted as anything more than simply trying to scare people not to use computer file sharing networks?
No, I don't think I'm here to scare anybody. I'm here to raise
it in the security awareness week. If your presentation has nothing to do with security, so how can your presentation be interpreted as anything more than?
Well, because if I came in and spoke for 1 hour about the fact that if you use peer-to-peer clients, you might get viruses on your computer, that would be so fucking boring.
You can get
we
viruses.
all know that, right?
Are you aware of the case I'm referring to?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, who is the defendant?
That I don't know.
Do you know who is, this where this defendant is located, where the case is located?
No, I'm not involved with that case at all.
No, but you know what it is.
I
Now,
suspect.
Are you a lawyer?
I am not.
You're not a lawyer, so what is your title?
I'm the Senior Vice President of Technology.
Senior Vice President of Technology. And who in the audience are your sales kids with? I'm just curious who you know. Turner and who else?
That's it.
Okay.
The other people are not clients. They're probably not just
I never solicited any clients, I'm just curious.
You have a question?
I'd like to bring it back to the business platform of the music industries. Sorry, my alcohol. We've talked a lot about the lawsuits and everything. To me, the lawsuits is just like the photo radar on the 101. People know they're there, they avoid them, and they speed all over the places in the highway. So, and you're talking about educating people about pirating and thinking that this is a way to solve.
I want you to understand the implications. I'm not here to scare you. There are other things in motion that, if you want to say it's a scare tactic, you can say that. I can argue that's an opinion. But I'm here to try to explain why it's a problem and who suffers and why and how it impacts you guys.
Right.
That was my intention.
Right.
And I don't know if I got through to some or any of you.
I was just wondering though, because of the supply and demand aspect of it, obviously we're going to the internet because it's easier to get music. Okay, maybe it's free, but even Apple has kind of...
iTunes is not hard to use, and anybody
right,
that says
exactly.
it is basically full of shit. I mean, come on, you put in your credit card, you click, you buy. I mean,
right, but I'm wondering, are other industries going to get into this? Because Apple's kind of taken over that. Are other industries going to move onto the internet? And if they do we see it?
Other technology companies, you mean?
Right, like if Tower Records had gone to the internet and opened something like iTunes.
They did, but the problem is they didn't have an iPod.
So, okay.
They had some generic Windows Media players that never got the traction in the marketplace of the iPod.
So is iTunes going to be the monopoly of...
I don't think so. I think that over time that they will get... I mean, I'll give you an example of one meeting we had with Steve Jobs, and he said, you know, the biggest problem for consumers is you're not interoperable. They can't download from Walmart and put it on their iPod because it's in Windows DRM format. And people can't put iTunes songs on other devices and so on. And we really need to talk about interoperability, which is what I spend most of my time on when I'm not defending myself against placards. I didn't mean the people, I meant the actual song.
Are you willing to stop using DRM on files in order to ensure?
One second, I'll finish this and then I'll finish this.
Okay.
So what Steve Jobs said to the music industry was, please come back and ask me again when my market share has dropped below 50%. That's what he said. Now, if we had said that publicly, we'd have a DOJ suit against us for antitrust. But he can do it. He's got a monopoly that he established legitimately by competition, and he's going to defend it as long as he can. Why wouldn't he? Give away somebody else's razors and sell $300 blades. It's an awesome business model. There's no profit in the iTunes business model, very little, as you understand. The average iPod user has less than 20 legitimately purchased iTunes songs on the iPod. So they spend $18 on music and $30 on the device. Where's the money? Were you next?
Yeah. It's actually interesting you speaking about DRM. I was curious what your response is to Steve Jobs' open letter in regards to making DRM-free music on iTunes.
Yeah, I think he was being quite disingenuous. I think he understands the technology as well as anybody who knows his background. He is under pressure in Europe from legislators to, there are certain laws, like in Norway, for example, they're so-called time laws. You can't title one product for another, they're forcing people to buy an iPod to use iTunes and vice versa. So they're trying to open it up. And rather than work with other legitimate music services that use DRM, and I'll explain why DRM is necessary. It's not just because people, it's not just maybe it's silly, but he put that letter out, I think, as kind of a smokescreen to take people's eyes off the ball. What he really should be doing is looking at ways to make his DRM interoperable with other DRM so that people can buy them and install them, which of course he could do, but he chooses not to. And maybe when his market share drops below 50%, he will.
Actually, I believe that's not what his open letter was about, because you can technically right now put an MP3 file on an iPod.
I understand. He is saying that the solution is to draw DRM and sell open MP3s. The unfortunate thing is, and this is the last part of my talk that everybody got to, but the unfortunate thing is that music used to be sold in one way. Companies would press discs and ship them, and that was it. And now, look at my sheet here and just read a few. Oh, you know what? I didn't even type it up. But without DRM, there would be no ability to have a subscription service. There would be no ability to have a tethered subscription service to your PC, to have a portable subscription service like Rhapsody Go. There would be no ability to time out, to sample, to distribute, play 3-time-only files. There's all kinds of business models that fall apart if you revert to selling MP3s. And as I said, Steve Jobs has no interest in selling music. It's not his business. It's much more profitable. You can look at the profit margin on the annual report of a company like EMI. It's public. If it's 1%, I'd be surprised. And you can look at the profit margin at Apple. And if it's 35%, it would be. So he knows where the money is. He doesn't really care whether it's open MP3s that are filling up his iPod or pirated MP3s. He just wants to sell more. Now, if you really believe that DRM was bogus, and this is what I challenged them on at Apple, they didn't respond. I said, does that mean that all the Pixar movies are now going to be downloaded on the internet with no DRM? Does that mean all the Toy Story DVDs are no longer have CSS copy protection on them? Does that mean that he's going to stop protecting other pieces of his code in Apple and so on? Of course not. Well, he's just a hypocrite, in my personal opinion.
Well, yeah, I do agree with you that at this point we're kind of waiting for what he's going to do next. But one of the major arguments against DRM is that at this point, anybody who's going to be pirating music is going to find a way around DRM. That's inevitable. However, so essentially what people are perceiving DRM is that you're penalizing people who are downloading them legally, that even if there was DRM or not DRM.
I'll give you a quick analogy, and I'll have to ask somebody who tells me how we're doing for time.
Yeah,
We pretty much have to, okay. I'll answer this last question. This is how I perceive it. If you park your car by the beach and you leave your sunglasses on the dashboard, but you roll up the windows and lock the door, and somebody really wants those sunglasses, and they smash the window and take them, they can do it. It's really not that hard to smash a window if you have a break. It's not that hard to crack in the yard. I mean, if you have to, you can play it out in analog, recapture it, re-encode it, make it MP3 file. Okay? On iTunes, you burn a CDR, you rewrite it. But if a guy beside you has his sunglasses on his dashboard, he's got his windows rolled up and his doors are not locked, which car are you going to steal from? Oh, and the guy beside him has his sunglasses on the dashboard of his convertible with the top down. Look, there would be many people who would say, well, the guy who left his $300 sunglasses on the dashboard with the top down deserves to have his stuff stolen, because clearly he doesn't care enough about protecting it to even put the top up, roll up the windows, and lock the door. And that is what ICDRM is. It is a clear line in the sand that people know when what they're doing is acceptable.